I'm a consumer researcher at the University of Canterbury, and I have been studying repair cafes in New Zealand for the past about 2 years. And most recently, I've been speaking to visitors to the Repair Cafe. So these results that I'll present are kind of preliminary in nature. I'm still collecting data, but they dovetail quite nicely with what we've just heard from the survey. So I'll just get into that. So I guess I should also say that I'll be preparing a report from both my investigation of repairs, of the volunteers who give up their time to repair cafes, as well as the visitors. And so I hope to have that ready to share with the community in the early part of next year. So a big thank you to everyone for their mahi and the work they do in this area, particularly Repair Cafés Aotearoa, the volunteers, the organizers, and those people who've invited me in and allowed me to come to the repair events and to interview volunteers and most recently visitors. And thank you to the visitors for sharing their stories and being willing to talk to me about their experiences. Just a little bit about what the literature tells us. There's not a lot of research that's been done on repair cafes. It's an emerging area of research, but similar to what we've just seen, a large share of repairs are conducted by consumers themselves. But as we've also seen, there are a lot of impediments that prevent consumers from self-repairing or getting their items fixed. But those impediments have been talked about, but not been well documented in the literature. Repair cafes have a really important role to play by making repair more visible, and the social norms and the practices around repair. They make it a more acceptable practice, more accessible, and more mainstream. So repair cafes really have important work that they're doing in this space. Research has shown that volunteers that give up their time are motivated to keep things out of the landfill, to support their local community, and to meet others who are passionate about repair. And some work has been done with visitors, showing that they want to prolong the life of their items they own, avoid buying new, and reduce waste. But again, really an emerging area of research. So the objectives that I'm presenting today are a little bit more about how consumers experience these impediments to repair. So what's preventing them from doing self-repair or getting items repaired, and then what motivates the visitors to participate in repair cafes. So again, just preliminary kind of snapshot in kind of 10 minutes, and I've got a lot more data that will be in my final report. In terms of undertaking this research, I conducted semi-structured face-to-face interviews with visitors. Thus far, I've interviewed 20 Repair Cafe visitors from 6 repair cafes across New Zealand, both North and South Island. Also done participant observation just to try to understand the practice better and understand the impediments that stop repair from happening even at the Repair Cafe. And I've analyzed my data with thematic analysis. As I've said, I'd like to continue to conduct some more research. So if you're an organizer out there and you'd invite me to come visit, I would really appreciate that. So please reach out to me. My participants included 13 women and seven men, ranging in age from 33 to 82. Quite a number were retired. A larger number of Kiwis than expats, and that was the reverse when I looked at repairs. More expats were participating as repairs. I wanted a range of experiences, so a range of levels of participation. So people I've spoken to ranged from 1 to having come to 6 sessions, but the vast majority, this was their first time participating in a repair cafe or bringing an item to a repair cafe. So that's why I really would like to collect more data. I'd like to, it's great to talk to people who are coming to it for the first time because they can talk to you about their uncertainty and they didn't know what to expect. But really, I'd like to enrich this data with people who've been more frequently. Most are bringing practical items, or at least the ones I spoke to, with a few bringing sentimental items, things like antiques, teddy bears, that sort of thing. So First of all, looking at the impediments. Consumers or visitors to repair cafes talked about lots of impediments that restricted their ability to undertake repair. Many of these related to their own personal experiences. So many talked about that they didn't feel like they had the skills, or they didn't have a certain type of skill. They might be able to sew, but they didn't feel like they could put a zip in. So they wanted to bring it to somebody who knew what they were doing. James does heaps of repair, heaps and heaps. And but he felt like with certain items, he was bringing electrical items, heaters, I think, to the repair cafe, and really felt like for safety reasons, he needed to bring it to someone who knew what they were doing. Many talked about not having the proper tools or equipment. This in particular related to sewing, not having a sewing machine, but also other specialized tools that might allow them to test whether their item was working or working properly. And so being able to come to the repair cafe and get that expertise through the access to tools or proper equipment was important. Other personal impediments included just a lack of confidence, not feeling like they had the expertise, rather take it to someone who knew what they were doing. Sometimes you just don't know what needs to be done, Samantha talked about. So just not having this confidence, and often just coming and talking through the problem with others was important. This person talks about just not having the sewing experience, for instance. Sorry about the background noise. I'm in London now, and it's very noisy on this corner, so my apologies. I quite like this quote from Tessa, who talked about, I just wasn't sure whether I could unscrew it or whether I was going to kill myself if I did that. And I know it's just a tiny little thing that holds it all together, but I don't know what I'm doing. So it's great to have someone who has these skills and can show me what to do and undertake it for me. Other personal impediments to repair, simply just not having enough time to go to YouTube videos, to read information that they might need. And so that led some like Fran, a busy mom raising children on her own, that this is just a great place to be able to bring the item down. And so on this day, she had brought 4 items to be repaired. On our previous visit, she'd had her wooden chairs fixed. So that was just a great experience for her. So again, don't have the skills, but also don't have the time from Rebecca. It didn't come across as predominantly as it might have in the quantitative part or the quantitative results we've just seen. Only a few really talked about the affordability for them personally. Some we'll see it when we get to marketplace constraints, but it wasn't as predominant a concern, and that may have been because of the face-to-face nature of the data collection, where people didn't perhaps want to say that. It's possible, but it didn't come across as strongly. But we did have some talk about that if you take it to a professional before they even open the thing up and they just have a look, they're going to charge you $50 to have a quick look. And so that just wasn't practical for this person. Also, lots of impediments that come from the marketplace. So simply a lack of repair service. So that was often related to certain items they wanted to get repaired. So Kay had this very precious radio, and she had been everywhere trying to get it repaired and tried to do it herself. And so just not able to find repair services in the marketplace. Or a lot of talk about that the types of items that might be brought to the repair cafe, smaller appliances, that you just couldn't get those fixed out in the marketplace. You could a washer, a dryer, that sort of thing, but the smaller items, jugs, toasters, mixers, repair services are just not interested in doing that. Or that, and this person's from Christchurch talked about, there used to be a great appliance repair place and they're no longer available. So limited repair services. Again, James, who does a lot of repair, is quite into repair. He's constrained by the marketplace because he often can't find the parts he needs, or the marketplace requires that he buys a whole circuit board when he just needs a very small item. So not able to get the parts out in the marketplace. and Kay recognized that not being able to get parts, but also this problem of planned product obsolescence, preventing us from fixing the things we own and extending their life. Other impediments to repair, James, again, who's a keen repairer, talked about that there were people said they offered repair in the marketplace, but don't in fact have the skills necessary. So he was often disappointed then when he went into the marketplace when he needed things repaired. And then a lack of information. So poor Kay and her precious radio, her item didn't get fixed on the day, and she is going to go back to the internet, but just the struggle to find information for unique items that weren't more easily repaired, perhaps. And then a few recognized if you took an item into the marketplace to an unauthorized repair place that you would forfeit the warranty. So all of these things then created some challenges, some constraints that then really created more welcoming place at repair cafes for visitors or people bringing their items to be repaired. So motivations then to participate, obviously hoping to get their item fixed. Okay, so Alex talks about getting items fixed in general. Margot talks about, I guess, just really getting things fixed to make your life easier. So that's obviously a predominant motivation. But then quite consistently across everyone I talked to, they either talked about the importance of living their values through Repair Cafe or reducing environmental impact and harm. So Rebecca talks about, I go to op shops, I reuse. Sue says, I want to make sure things can be used. They're not just sitting around in the home. I love this last one. I don't want to be part of this whole consumer nightmare, all of the packaging and all the things you get. And so this fits with my values. Others talked about reducing environmental impact by not throwing things away. So that was a very common, I don't want to see things go into the landfill. I want to reduce rubbish. So this is an accessible way to enable people to avoid waste and keep things out of the landfill. A few talked about extending the life and how that's such a positive thing, and it's extending the life of their items as well. A few did bring up that this is an important way to save money if you repair it. Again, this idea if you take it in, just having them look at it will cost you $100, and to get it fixed, maybe more. Items that had been fixed, they talked about this was great. They fixed it for me, and look how much money I've saved. So it was less about the cost of repair, but fixing the items and then being able to use them again and not buying new. An important, but maybe perhaps slightly overlooked, I think, real benefit of repair cafes to what you all do and what you all offer. People talked about, it'd be great if the item could be fixed. Sometimes that's not possible, but just getting the information, it might give me permission to say, I can't, in this case, maybe I should buy new. But in many cases, it was they direct them to somewhere else that could fix it, or direct them to a part that they could find and maybe even bring back. So Adam loved the fact that he told me and looked up and found the number of the part, and I'm pretty good with soldering, so I can fix it myself now. So this was a really important benefit that many people talked about, just knowing, can I continue to use it? Can it be fixed? And then an important one that lots of people talked about in different ways. So Albert was new to his community, and he was coming in to see what was going on, what was happening at his local hall community center. And he's contemplating, does he have skills he can offer? Because that's how we grow together. Margot, she loves the connection and the community aspect. Jill as well. Rebecca loves, she comes regularly. It's a fun occasion. It's jovial. There's morning tea. What's not to love? And then finally, Roger, who was part of the larger organization that facilitated the Repair Cafe, a church in his community. He loved the fact of the camaraderie and seeing people he knew, and just another way to catch up. And so he came as often as he could. So just in concluding then, I found numerous personal and marketplace constraints that really create impediments for people to do self-repair or to get items professionally repaired, and so that brings them to the Repair Cafe. Some of this data I didn't present, but 64% of the items that the visitors brought were fixed on the day. I have a lot of data about their experience of the Repair Cafe, which I didn't have time to present here today. But in general, they struggled to find negative things to say, if I'm honest. They were so pleased, so positive, loved the community aspect, loved the efforts of the repairers. The only things that when I said, well, can you tell me some things that I might point to that can and help improve this initiative? And they said, well, maybe it should be more widely advertised or more specific in advertising in terms of, I didn't realize there'd be someone here working on jewelry, for instance, and I would have brought something. Many talked about it more often. You know, if we could have it more often, that would be great. Understanding as well the constraints that organizers face. Generally, people weren't disappointed when things weren't fixed. But when it was a sentimental item, they were quite disappointed. And many had worked quite hard to try to get sentimental items fixed. And so that was that was more disappointing than kind of more the instrumental things. Some disappointment, but kind of, you know, okay with that. But also loved the fact when information was provided. Key benefits are obviously fixing items, living their values, reducing environmental impact and harm, keeping things out of waste stream, getting information that can facilitate future repair or allowing them to repair themselves, being part of this community initiative and supporting it, and for some, saving money. So for organizers, some if you're not using these benefits and promoting them, especially around linking to values and reducing environmental harm and a way to get information and being part of community, those may be useful ways to promote the events and what you're doing.